Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We're coming at you on April 7th of 2021. Again, we're about 2.5 months or so into the Biden administration, or I guess almost 3 months. But somehow we have survived. But there is still a lot going on, a lot of crazy stuff. And one of those things is the aftermath of the whole George Floyd police incident, the whole, Deric Chauvin trial. That's going on right now. And so we want to talk a little bit about that this episode. But before we get into that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our Screaming Eagle of Freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So, Deric Chauvin trial for the whole knee on the neck thing, with George Floyd that led to almost a year of unrest, with all of the BLM protests and the ensuing riots that also happened in a lot of major cities. It's all coming down to this trial right now. And Deric Chauvin he's already been let go as a police officer, and I think the other 3 police officers as well.
Yes.
And Deric Chauvin, I believe he is being charged separately from those others right now.
Yes, he is.
On this. Yeah, and so he's being tried right now, and this is kind of the whole shebang. But the big question is what actually happened there, and is there a reasonable doubt about what happened? We've certainly all seen the pictures of Deric Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck while he's saying, "I can't breathe." And then, of course, he died. And that was 9 minutes of that is what occurred. Of course, that was what the media showed us. And now we have a trial. And, a lot of us have seen that there's a little bit more to it, and some of the video as well. There was George Floyd saying, "I can't breathe," before he was even put on the ground.
Yes, true.
And there was some resisting of instructions and trying to get him into the car. Which is what wound up causing him to be on the ground. So this has been a huge issue. The city is trying him for, I believe, certainly they're calling it a homicide, but I'm not sure if it's is it like 3rd-degree murder or something?
It's third-degree murder and manslaughter he's charged with.
Okay. And so that's really what comes down to the question, is this something that was way out of bounds that Deric Chauvin did? Is it sufficient for him to be essentially put away for life in jail? Or is this something where, kind of one of the things that happens in the course of run-ins with police occasionally? What do you guys think?
I didn't know. I mean, when I initially heard and read about this this situation with Deric Chauvin and George Floyd, I did not know that the knee on the neck is part of the police protocols in terms of trying to subdue an unruly suspect they are trying to arrest. So in that sense, at first I was quite outraged by what Chauvin did. So, but it putting a knee on the neck is allowed by the Minneapolis Police Department in their protocols for subduing and arresting an unruly suspect. The issue then becomes, did Chauvin cross the line? Because he did stay on George Floyd's neck for almost 9 minutes, if I'm remembering correctly. Was that too much? Was that where he crossed the line? Because what we are hearing now is that you could, when you use the knee on the neck procedure, it should be for probably less than a minute, if I'm understanding this correct. But he was there for almost 9. So in that sense, you can see where there might be problems for him in the trial, because to me, as far as I can tell, he stayed too long on the neck, and it was way past what the protocols called for in the police manuals. So I still see this as problematic, seriously problematic. But what is going on here, to me, is that the media is presenting this, of course, of white police officer trying to destroy and kill the life and take the life of a black man. The race issue, they have to put it front and center. And this is very problematic in my mind. But the point is, nobody is talking about the fact that the knee on the neck was a legitimate police procedure in when they're trying to arrest someone. The question is, did Chauvin go too far in administering that particular procedure? I am not sure about the answer to that question. To me, as a civilian, looking at the videos, I've looked at many of them, it looked to me like he went too far. But maybe there's more to come out. I don't know. We'll see when the defense put on their case.
Good points, all good points. And I actually don't really have much to say one way or the other about what's going on in that trial, other than to say that there's, I'm assuming 12 plus maybe some standby people that are going to make the determination, and it's up to the prosecution to make a case beyond a reasonable doubt of wrongdoing. And if they can't do that, then they'll have to let the guy go. But however it pans out, I am, unlike my liberal friends, again, on Facebook, the ones that already have this guy who is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
Because they saw the video, they have, this guy has already been tried. He's been convicted. He's been sentenced, and he's even been executed or killed in prison by the other prisoners. Which I thought was rather odd, relying on those wonderful people that are in federal prisons to mete out justice against this horrible police officer who, so basically you'll have somebody that raped 9 women killing this guy, or maybe another guy that was part of 5 or 6 drug gang related murders, where they were wanting for sure to murder the guy, meting out justice on this convicted, of course I'm talking in the future here, police officer, because he's white, and so I thought that was all very telling. It's like, how people can want or can express themselves about this kind of thing, when I don't care who it is. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And it's kind of like when people ask me, there was an aircraft accident, for example, and hey, Tim, what do you think about that accident? And I got about that much of the information, total information that the NTSB is going to get. So in this case, the NTSB is the jury and the prosecution and the defense working to come to some conclusion. And I'm going to call it justice. I know that justice is hard to come by in the American justice system, but I'm going to still have faith in it, because what else am I going to have faith in?
Exactly.
A bunch of my Facebook friends that already have this guy tried and convicted based on their little myopic viewpoint. So just like any other accused, this guy he deserves to be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law with in front of a judge and jury and with a jury of his peers. So there we have it. That's what I would recommend. Yeah, okay. Is that a bad thing that I'm going to say? I don't know. And not that Leon has said that he knows. He's got his questions, and he's just brought them out what his questions were, and they are legitimate questions. And I don't think they're the only questions, but I think they're definitely important questions to be ironed out during this trial. And so my great and wonderful liberal friends who have just decided that this guy's guilty, but whether it's proven or not, he's guilty in their minds, and so therefore he's guilty. Well, okay, sorry, you're going to have to work it out. I hate to burst your how should I say it? Lynch
echo chamber.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's they're all in an echo chamber. There's nobody that's going to fight against them, and certainly not me, because I'm not going to get into that road to nowhere, that fool's errand. I hate to burst their bubble, but there's a protocol and there's a system, and I know what I was going to call it. I don't want to burst their lynch mob mentality here.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just because he's white doesn't mean that he gets to be lynched now, to like retribution for the lynchings that occurred in the past against black people. And there were plenty of those, and for all the wrong reasons. But two wrongs don't make a right. And this is something that just has to be watched as it's played out, and post what is it, when they're post verdict, people are going to have to just suck it up, no matter what side it comes out on and what side it did. And I know they're not gonna.
That's just the problem. They're not gonna. If he's found not guilty.
Yeah, if he's found not guilty. If he's found guilty, there will be rejoicing throughout the nation, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be the riot that's like a win of your favorite sports team, and if he gets off, then there'll be a riot.
Yeah, then there'll be a riot
one way or the other.
Yeah.
You may be right there. And then two more banks in my neighborhood will be burned to the ground.
Right.
Again,
right.
Because of it. And those two banks, when I say burned to the ground, I'm talking about flat, okay? Burned to the ground. Two completely separate entities from George Floyd and from some state on the other side of the United States, 3,000 miles away.
Sure.
It is fiat money that's being burned, though, right, Tim? So
that's true. I wish. Actually, I wish they would have lost some. Well, there may be a little tiny bit, because they don't carry much cash in a bank. Are you kidding? That's not where they have the cash. Unlike what they, when one famous bank robber was asked, "Well, why do you rob banks?" And he said, "Well, that's where the money is." Well,
that's where the money is. Yeah.
Well. That's not true anymore. It's very little of it is there. I mean, they've got some, but so not enough to make a dent in the trillions of dollars that are out there in the world.
Well, it's one of the interesting points, though, that both of you guys brought up is the idea of, I think all of us were guilty of this, that we saw this at first and the media gave us one picture. And we didn't see everything in the beginning of this. And it's in a way, I think the media is largely the villain again, in a lot of how this event unfolded and where we are today with this. When this first happened, I remember we were all talking about it, and I couldn't see how he had his, knee on this guy. And for all this time, there was no reporting on the fact that he was saying he couldn't breathe long before he was put on the ground. Well, I mean, that's the defense
that's true.
of why
I never knew that until the trial began. I did not know that.
And the idea that he's pinned on the ground and saying I can't breathe, that makes you assume, okay, clearly this guy should have known better. He should have been, he should have lifted this guy up and put him in another position. But he was already saying that before he was, when they were just trying to put him into the police car. So, I mean, the idea that, all of these little bits and facts were shaded by the media for us, where we were only shown little bits to support a specific narrative, it's really done a massive disservice to everybody. And it's caused horrific damage. And, this media just constantly gets away. Whether it's CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, they have their narrative. They're not anymore about getting to the truth. It's about a narrative. And we keep seeing this over and over and over again throughout the Trump administration. And now that Biden is in there, it's just, one of the things I guess there's a parallel here too. When Jacob Blake over in, I think, was it Michigan?
Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin, yes. Before there was even any kind of a finding of facts or anything, Joe Biden was saying the police officer should be arrested. And, we've clearly seen that, that everything was.
You mean Obama?
No. It was Joe Biden when he was running for president.
Jacob
Blake.
Okay.
What
about when Obama? Remember when Obama had that guy? I think it was a white guy. I'm not sure, but anyway, he said, "Oh yeah, he's guilty" or something. I can't remember all the details.
It was involving a professor, his friend who was Louis Gates. Henry Louis Gates is Obama's friend, and Henry Louis Gates got arrested at his home, and Obama said that guy, police acted stupid and blah blah blah, and a whole bunch of stuff.
I thought it was there was another guy, a cop, that did something, a white cop, and I don't know.
Well, the cop was white in the case of Henry Louis Gates.
Oh, okay.
The cop was white.
Oh, and the cop did something to Henry Louis Gates.
Yes, the cop arrested Henry Louis Gates at his home. Oh. Henry Louis Gates was trying to break into his own home because he had lost his keys.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness.
And the police officer was just doing his job.
Yeah.
He asked Henry Louis Gates for his ID. He refused. The police ended up arresting him. Anyway, we get enough topic here, Jason.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, that's okay, but it just brings up the issue, though, that we do have a trial system in this country, and the fact that the media is so irresponsible that they completely play against that, to sit there and they put out a narrative before and just essentially let the country tear itself apart. It's
then they get to report on that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's.
They can't lose. They just can't lose. I wonder what it would have been like if. I wonder what it would have been like if it would have been a white guy who got killed underneath the knee of a black cop. Wonder how things would have panned out. Because there's this racial undertone constantly. And then I was gonna.
Well, we do know what it was like when a white individual was killed under the knee of a white cop, and that was in the case of, I think the guy's name was Tony Timpa, and that was a guy who was mildly retarded, I think, and the police pinned the guy down, and I guess Tony Timpa's family was horrified, to find out that the police had wound up killing him, and they didn't know they were joking around as they had the knee on this man's neck. And then they found out he was dead, as right. They called the ambulance. And, one of the funny things was, when, at least I believe I heard on one of the other podcasts, I think it was the one with Adam Carolla and the attorney guy, I can't remember his name at the moment, but Garagos, I think. He was, they were talking about, I believe, Tony Timpa's family was just, they couldn't believe it when this whole thing happened with George Floyd, because look at all of the attention that this got. And when their son died,
didn't care at all. Nobody rioted.
Yeah.
You didn't have those mostly peaceful protests. You didn't have none of that.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
Didn't fit the narrative. It's not about
the narrative, exactly.
Narrative.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then that whole thing that you're talking about, where he's saying he can't breathe prior to it, and then I can't breathe during it. So that's a little bit of the boy who cried wolf going on there. So
Exactly.
is
Exactly.
the cop going to?
It possibly, and it's possible he couldn't breathe just because he was overloaded with drugs in his system as well, which is something that's also come out during the trial. And they're saying, I guess the medical examiner is saying that was also a potential cause of death in this case. So the idea that he couldn't breathe may not have had anything to do with the knee, or it could have been taken by the officer potentially, as well. This guy was already saying it, so clearly he's just faking it. There could be all kinds of things going on here that, it's hard to know. That's all part of what goes into potentially reasonable doubt. We're not there hearing all the evidence, so it's hard for us to be sure here. But, at least some of the things we are hearing, it's not the clear-cut case it was when the media threw their narrative at us about a year ago. So.
But you see, these are the problems we are having, though, Jason. The media injects this poison into the discussion, this poison of race into the discussion, and then we can't have a rational discussion about what actually happened on that day that George Floyd met Deric Chauvin. We can't have a rational discussion about it. Now, look for instance, I did not know that the knee on the neck was a legitimate protocol by a police officer in the Minneapolis, in the city of Minneapolis. I did not know that, and I'm considered a guy. I'm well read. I follow a lot of things and that kind of stuff, and I did not know that until recently. But they have to. The first thing they inject into it is race. They don't tell us. Well, maybe even if they had said, well, the police officer was doing this thing, it was legitimate, but maybe he went too far. I could have understood that narrative. Okay, I could have understood that narrative. But before any of that came out, the first thing they told us, it obviously was an issue of race. White officer, dead black person, obviously it was race. Obviously it was racism in America. And obviously we should have all those mostly peaceful protests all over the country. Come on. Yeah. And this is nobody can have a rational discussion about this anymore. And this is our problem we're having. We're going off a cliff on this nonsense.
Well, what I hear you saying, Leon, is that if there was responsible reporting, you would have heard about as much as you heard previous. Plus, you would have heard that Minneapolis Police Department has this as part of their restraint protocols, right? And so you would have had that additional information. Even though it didn't play into the narrative that when you're busy trying to wake the country up to how racist all of us white people are, and we all know how racist we all are, then you can't bring up issues that may go against that narrative, because you've been, like I tell people, when dealing with people that I have to deal in the work environment, everybody wants to justify their own existence. And they do that because, sometimes their jobs are just so dismal that, they have to make excuses for why they're being even employed. And, apparently that's because they shouldn't be employed. But anyway, So the media is trying to justify their own existence, and they don't do that by telling you that there's a protocol in the Minneapolis Police Department, and that's part of the protocol. I mean, even though it's not 9 minutes, but I mean, at least they could tell you that.
Exactly. Yes.
We're just about to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. One thing I did want to throw in there as well too for people is the amount of things that could be biasing this case as well. They announced a $27 million settlement during the jury selection.
Right.
There's potential that this trial will be biased regardless, whatever happens, and it's possible that government may have created a situation for a mistrial. Even
this is certainly going to be appealed on that basis. I would think so if he's convicted.
Yeah. So, but anyways, we are at the point in our show where we are getting ready for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. And so that's the point where we try and bring it around to something kind of silly that some news media person or politician might have said. And this time it's AOC, Andrea Ocasio-Cortez. So recently she has sort of flip-flopped in her thinking, I guess, with respect to kids in cages and the border. So she was recently, I guess she likes to just speak into her phone and do these weird interview things by herself. I don't quite know what the deal is, but anyway, she loves to talk into her phone and share it with the world. And
nobody else wants to ask her, so ask herself.
Exactly. She's going to give her opinion whether anybody's there or not. but this particular time, so she's talking about now it's not about kids in cages. Remember, before she showed up in a white suit, cried at a fence where there was nothing to see for the photo op. Well, now she's saying that this is not a surge. These are children. They are not insurgents. And so, because everybody's talking about there being a border surge and there being a lot more kids in these cages now than when Trump was president. And then she goes on to say, and it's not a border crisis. It's an imperialism crisis. It's climate crisis. It's trade crisis. And it's also a carceral crisis. So, anyways, you guys have any ideas or thoughts on AOC's reframing the issue?
Real quick, she might have a thing with the climate deal, because if you ever been down to Central America, man, it's kind of hot there, and there may be coming up just to cool off. So she may have something there. Yeah. Go ahead, Liam.
You see, the whole thing, Jason, really and truly is really a crisis. A crisis of stupidity and hypocrisy. That's what it is, okay? And what we really need is some insurgents, or we need a surge of common sense for that woman. This woman is so beyond the pale, is beyond me. She's such a stupid. Oh God, I better not say anything more than that. I might say one of those words that will have to be edited out before the show is done.
She needs an insurgency of intelligence.
There we go. There we go. Yes.
Well,
Tim is doing a good job of cleaning up my words today.
Clarifying. I'm clarifying.
Well, the absolute hypocrisy. She stands there and makes a show of this when it's Trump. And
yes.
It's literally the cages Obama built, and Trump is just putting the people there who come across the border, and then suddenly it's Trump's cages, and then once it's Biden again, it's not cages anymore, and it's not a surge, and they're not
no, it's holding facilities now. It's holding facilities, not kids in cages. Yeah. They're in holding facilities, and the conditions are far worse than what Donald Trump when Donald Trump had them at the border. My God!
But they won't let you film them to double check.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's about the end of our show today. So, whether AOC is watching and crying or not, we're going to have to let it go at that. So, thank you for joining us, and we will see you at the next one. Stay free.
Bye.